G'day, partners. Welcome to the Deep Dive powered by puntingform.com.au. It's a sectional database. Pistol users who looks like Michael Hutchinson, I use, and even Matt Rix, who joins us from Ciaron Maher Racing. This is a bit of a moment for everyone, and particularly people who grew up in the Southern Shire. Rixie and I come from God's country, the birthplace of modern Australia. Rixie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Dicko. Yeah, really well. I've been doing my best for the last 10 years to get away from the Shire, but can't deny that's where I grew up, and still a lot of great people there. But yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
It's a little bit like the racing industry, and I'm sure like sort of how you must feel at times when you go back to the Shire. Like time passes, but not a lot changes, and I suppose that's what you're fighting to influence at the biggest stable in the country. They've empowered you and Josh and a bigger team to use data to make better decisions, I guess, as a business. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Absolutely. Before I touch on the data, though, you've just reminded me. I had a bit of a bring moment in Woolies yesterday down in Melbourne. I was in Port Melbourne. I was thinking, how good is it? Like, underrated aspect of moving to Melbourne. How good is it not bumping into people that you just knew growing up, that you don't want to talk to? And I never have that problem in Melbourne, and it's so good. And I moved back to the Shire for a year, and just like, it's not like just awkward tension. Like, I don't know, maybe it's my
you are like Rixie's a data analyst. Like, he loves data, so he's obviously like Josh, who people watch the mailbag know, a very deep thinker, can overanalyze from time to time. But I know what you mean. Like, you might duck up to the shops and just want to get milk and bread, and all of a sudden, oh fuck, there's knackers. I played footy 10 years ago. I don't want to be rude, but I just want to get the milk and bread. My missus should have got it, but she didn't, and I just want to get in and out.
Exactly. And the Shire, everyone knows everyone. So like, it might be a real brief connection, but yeah, it's no good. So anyway, sorry, I digress.
Further though, to your background, so while we're talking about, it's not like pure data, and it's certainly not horse racing. From what I understand, it's a enormous, and just a little FYI to anyone out there, the pod, one of the worst names to find on Twitter, so you can clarify what it is, but it's worth finding because it's a really interesting pod on Supercoach and Rugby League, which is your background.
Yeah, a bit niche, the old Supercoach Rugby League. But yeah, we got a new podcast, the Point of Difference pod, the NRL SC pod on Twitter for anyone who wants to check it out. So my background's all wagering. So I've 15 years in wagering at a few different corporate bookmakers, and I punted as well full time for a couple of years. Still love punting, and the opportunity came up with Ciaron to come and do something a little bit different. So implement a data strategy for his business. And obviously there's some really clear similarities across wagering and horse racing. And it's working really well. I'm really enjoying the different kind of challenge and bringing some kind of different thinking to an industry, which I think was it still is in desperate need of it. So, it's the empowerment from Ciaron to hire guys like me and as you mentioned, Josh, and we got some really smart young sports scientists in the team as well, Katrina and Romy, who do a great job analysing all the data. They're horse people, genuine horse people who understand the animals much better than me or Josh could. So yeah, it's a great little team we're building, and I think it was a really watershed moment on Saturday, for not just our team but the whole business, with Hitotsu running so well, first up over a mile. And as well winning was just a great day.
It very much feels like a footy club. Like we got a glimpse of it at the sales, and we got a glimpse of it on Saturday. There was Katrina and a bunch of them, Kate. I don't know the other names, but there was a stack of Maher staff who were there enjoying the day. But it's like a footy club to me. Like I wouldn't be surprised if sooner or later there's a fines night every Thursday sort of thing.
Yeah, it's very much a pretty closely knit team. There's obviously the stable staff as well, who we get to go and see quite often. But then the team behind the scenes running the bloodstock, the data, the marketing. Ciaron's slowly kind of building a bit of an empire here. I think it'll probably put a few people's noses out of joint, but it's exciting to be a part of.
Rixie, you're talking about Saturday being a watershed moment. How does it work from your point of view with the data in terms of previewing a race and reviewing the meeting? So what's your split generally in terms of how you're analysing data?
So the race performance stuff is probably something that we're still progressing and haven't really landed yet in terms of how we implement that in the day-to-day. So we generally do a review on about Tuesday or Wednesday for the week prior. So we'll look at all the data. We'll go through how the races were run, how suited our horses were, and how well they performed. So probably something traditional is the team would look at, results. So first, second, third in a whatever class of race, and then think about where they might want to progress to next. So we're trying to cut through a bit of that kind of just general bias and contextualize the races a bit better. But it's very much a day-to-day thing. Like, we've got horses running every day, so it's there'll be morning calls for acceptances, and we know them everywhere, not free noms in Victoria. So just generally chat through. The racing managers do a great job placing the horses, and we'll generally just say, okay, well, this is how the horse profiles distance-wise. This is the data we've got from its races, from its training and its genetic tests. So try to figure out where the best place. Usually it's pretty obvious, and we're obviously trying to split our horses as well. So it's not so much a big team overview of the performance, but then we kind of, Josh and I will sort of phase the conversation towards the data as the week goes on, and blend it into conversations.
Which is scary of how well you guys are going. And in my opinion, Josh is the smartest person I've met in horse racing. And to have him just working his little ass off for you guys is just going to, I think, bring massive, massive rewards for you as a team. Further to that, the market hated Hitotsu, but as you said, it's a watershed moment. I think it's more of a watershed moment because not many horse, maybe 2 others or 3 others have done the Derby Guineas, but you could tell that it was against the traditional way of thinking. The horse was more forward internally than it probably would have been. My gut feel is because of a push from the data team or the sports science team or something like that, and Ciaron spoke to that a bit. Is that sort of why it's a big thing?
The horse was flying, and you didn't need the data to see that. The guy, the buzz around the stable around the horse was obvious. But the big thing was, so Katrina, who I mentioned earlier, she's been tracked. She loves Hitotsu, and she'd been tracking the data from last prep to this prep. And obviously he'd come out and won the Derby. Everything was great. But this prep, he'd come back even better. And all his recovery from his trainings was improved. His gallops he'd broken the track record for our gallops up at Ballarat. We've got some pretty sophisticated data that we use there in terms of the GPS. So we've got the finishing line marked, so we know all the trainings are really comparable, and it was just blowing everything out of the water we'd ever seen. But not only on that, as I mentioned, the recovery was so good that we knew the horse was so fit. So we knew that he was going to run well. I had zero doubt about that. There's obviously concerns a mile first up. Not so much first up because, as I said, we knew he'd be fit, but a mile, is that too short? The quality of the field, it was just such a deep race with, the Randwick Guineas had fallen away a bit. And we were just, so there was no concern. I think that was probably more to do with the drift where he was going to get to from barrier 1.
It's like, from a punting point of view, we were punters. It's fucking amazing. He's drifted 10% in this market. He's comfortably now the best horse in this race. If you didn't already think that, and you guys internally pretty much were saying you knew that. He's gone 480 to 850, and lightsabers run out of the ground. It's an enormous performance to sit where it sat and do what it did. The market has no idea basically or how to profile these generational superstars. That's my sort of takeaway.
It had a fair idea in the Derby on him. It was the complete opposite.
And which I was trying to tell Katrina this pre-race. It's John Allen inside draws, which I don't love, but now, sorry, John, you are good at it now. You're Yonce now this, but in the Derby it was 8s into 4s and pissed in. So I'm saying, Katrina, the market knew that time, and now they're saying maybe not today.
Well, I think the distance
Katrina was right, and I was wrong again.
The distance was the big thing, I think, for the market. A mile, it does look short of its best, and that was my main takeaway. They've gone I don't know, was it 15 lengths to the 15 lengths above standard to the 600? That's right out of Hitotsu's comfort zone for a mile to be going that quick. Johnny had to be really positive from barrier 1 if he wanted to win the race.
Well, this is where you get to with Josh, I think, and you and Josh combining. He did the same thing in the Caulfield Guineas, which I think is the best form race in Australia. Anamo's, I think, the best horse in Australia, and it's saxed up again. He's basically done the same figure as he did in the Caulfield Guineas, slightly less, but he's fresh first up. I think he's a miler to the way I read races.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the other interesting thing I just want to ask about was the breeding data, or talk us through that, and what is he?
Yeah, so we get our horses tested. Every horse that comes in the stable now gets it's called a gene test, racing gene test, and that shows us their preferred distance genetically. So there's 3 types. It's based off some research out of Ireland. It's about 10 years old now, and it's really, really good. So it tells us basically if the horse is CC, which is sprinter, CT, which is mile middle distance, and then TT, which is your out and out stayer. So Hitotsu is a CT. So we would expect him to be, between mile up to probably mile and a half, certainly at 3. I think there's probably little doubt that we think that the 10 furlongs is maybe his best distance, but who knows? Maybe he will show his best at a mile. And I think as a stallion prospect, that would be the best result for our owners and for the stable.
He is profiling at the moment like he's going to love the Cox Plate this year.
Took the words out of my mouth. They're just going to have to back him and just pray to God, Allah, Zeus, Harry Potter, every one of them that is dry next spring. Well, I think wet ground's a bit of a concern.
Yeah, I think that was really the team's big worry leading into Saturday as well. Like they were really concerned about the wet track, even though he's got a really big stride length and a really short stride frequency. So you would think that might actually be a problem. But yeah, I don't know enough about this yet in terms of how suitable that is to wet tracks and whatnot. Katrina would be able to tell you much better. But yeah, Cox Plate's definitely the long-term goal. He's only going to have maximum 2 more runs this prep. It's a little bit of a tricky program now for him. I don't think they'll want to back him up in 2 weeks into the All-Star Mile, but we'll wait and see.
Plenty of options. Basically, just looking at the punting form data here, he's come back. He has just fallen short of that overall figure in the Caulfield Guineas, as Dicko was alluding to. That's probably the peak performance that we would have seen last spring. And then it's almost less limitless. We haven't seen the ceiling with this horse, but the other horse that we haven't seen the ceiling of, we saw in the last race, and she completely, utterly donkey licked that field, was Yonce.
How's this too? So we're up there in the members with Josh, and Pistol and I have had a personal bet that I mixed up, and I thought I was overpass Inspirational Girl into Yonce. And basically, if Yonce won, the bet is he has to buy me a fitted suit and take me out to dinner. So it's a fair wager, and it's a painful experience. You know what I mean? You can play it up. So I thought it was Yonce's last leg, but it wasn't. I've had rose quartz in there as well.
We did celebrate Yonce was the last leg, though.
It was over at the 400. As soon as John got that little gap, it was from up there in the P&O Ship Cruise, which is the VRC members, it was just going to win.
That acceleration at the 400 was pretty scary. She keeps surprising everyone. She's kind of come from nowhere. She hadn't even had a start this time, I think 9 months ago.
Inside, outside, different patterns, different shapes. It was like Mario Kart when you go through those little arrows and it gapped them.
The data hasn't the race data I don't think has been that strong for her, and she kind of keeps getting doubted as she's kind of going up in grade. But I don't know, whoever the big players on the totes are, they never ever miss her. She's 250 best toed on a 3 RSP again.
Yeah. The thing I've always liked about her, and I think I was more bullish than Dicko was on the previous show, but she's beaten the class benchmark now in 4 of her 5 starts. Her last start, she beat the class benchmark by over 4 lengths. She cleared it by, again, over 4 lengths there on Saturday. That was a benchmark 84, looks destined for black type next start, as long as she just maintains what she's doing. So again, real exciting. Can't wait to see which races that the team ends up aiming her at over the coming month or so.
I think from a punter's point of view, which is why I wanted to get Rixie on, this horse is grey. It greys you up. It's deep into a first prep. It's John Allen inside draw. It's inside. It's going to be Rails and Run race 9, and it's pissing with rain, on a Thursday, Friday. And I think I'm starting to get my head around it, and that's why I want to get Rixie on. You can have a bit more confidence the more you understand the systems that are in place at CMR, like Ciaron Maher Racing, so that they're not forcing this, that there's data saying the horse is still capable of running decent rain. Yeah. It's not just give it another go. It's going through 16 filters before it's accepted, and I think that gives you confidence as a punter. And it's a big, like Rixie be dealing with every day. It's a big change from the norm. So even as a punter, it's hard to sort of get your head around from time to time. but I think it's the future.
Yeah, it's pretty well known that Ciaron and Dave like to space the horses' runs, and that's not a prevailing level of thinking that from most trainers. But like you say, beyond that, we've got data on all their gallops, so we know if they're starting to trail off, and if they are, then they go out. Like there's Decent Rain's a great example. She's been great all the way through. She's a bit of an iron filly. Not too many 3-year-old fillies have preparations like hers. But yeah, Yonce's been doing everything right at home. She keeps getting better. Wet tracks, they were really excited to get her on a wet track, and basically the wetter the better, they're thinking. So she'll go to Sydney now, probably the Emancipation, and then potentially to the Coolmore Legacy. So, based on what we saw on Saturday, you'd have to think it doesn't look like the mare's grade up there is super strong up to a mile. So we'll go up there with a bit of confidence.
Beautiful. I think we've stolen you up for long enough. That was really, really insightful. Thanks for coming on. And anything else you want to leave us with?
No. That's about it. There's one we got coming up. Little Smoky up at the Echuca Cup. We'll be tackling next. Little old guy called Reserve Street. He's a 7-year-old.
Oh, that's right. I'll be just about even on that horse.
He's going to be fit and firing first up. He's come back from he was up in Northern Territory. He had 3 starts up there. So
I might have backed that horse when Aaron Purcell trained it for 6 months. Seriously, that's how long it's been going for.
He's only 7. I thought he was 10, but just keep an eye out. He's going to the Echuca Cup with Unanimous. They'll both run well.
The Exceeds filly we bought. You tip her strongly.
I like her. We spoke about the sales.
To push very much, data, man. And just one more time, get your pens out. Okay, the name of the Twitter handle for this podcast, which is worth listening to if you want to get into a bit of rugby league, Hugby League Supercoach. So it's at NRLSC Pod on Twitter. We're called the Pod. There should be enough. If you search the Pod, you should be able to find it. No, it's tough. I'm telling you. I've tried. I tried yesterday. Expect to see team sheets this week too. Yeah, team list Tuesday, tomorrow. So big week for work, big week for Supercoach. Not sure the wife will be too happy. Rugby league's back. I know. I've got to go and price all the games as well. So haven't even thought about that yet. Just can't get away from it. No.
There's no off season, is there, Rixie?
There is not.
All right. Thanks, man. Great, guys. Cheers. Very, very insightful stuff there from good Shire boy, Rixie. So, plenty to learn, plenty to take in. I think it's a fascinating sort of operation overall, don't you?
Oh, it makes you, especially for me coming from WA, there's a fair gap between what Ciaron Maher Racing's doing and what you would necessarily see in WA. So the difference between the best and the rest, it's pretty sizable by the looks.
Punting form too. So full credit to them, full credit to punting form.
Exactly.
And full credit to us for belting them out of the park on Saturday at Flemington, Peter. Let's go through now and gently Dutch rudder and bubble bath as we review the data from what was a glorious day at Flemington. And so good to have you back, and Josh and Jack. What a fucking fun day it was for the boys.
Absolutely. Jeez, given that Ascot was under lock and key, I'm so happy that I was there at Flemington. Just to rub it into all the other yard watchers there in WA. It's worth coming over for the next couple of weeks, that's for sure.
Let's kick off in race 2. Crystal Pegasus pissed in, gapped him. The second horse was all right too. Ollie Road, whatever it was. Crystal Pegasus, I think, like a group benchmark figure now. It's certainly progressing in that direction. How good do you think it is?
I'd still want to see it improve again before you can really start to get excited about it in some of the bigger races. Just looking at it on type, it's not your traditional staying type as such, is it?
Yeah, no, it's more like a 400 metre horse.
Yeah.
Like that good horse. And Redkirk Warrior for Hayes, that sort of type, like a big athletic thing. But it ate up this distance. I thought that the tempo was solid enough. Like it definitely stays. Yeah, I think it'll be overbet though next start from a punter's point of view.
Yep.
Race 3, what in the hell happened here? The sectionals run by Mick D on Rose Quartz and also Linda Meach on Imperial Lad were exactly what you'd expect from Linda Meach. Fucking perfection, which means it's very, very hard to run on from last, which is what Bermudez did and pissed in. This is a horse by Tavistock, which was doing its best work over a mile last prep. Freshened Maroney Oliver. It shouldn't have been able to do what it did off that tempo. Rose Course should have won this race. I think wins this race sort of 29 times out of 30 when the race is run the way it was, which is that it's increasing sectionals the whole way home except for the last 200, and we're sitting just outside lead. I don't know what you do with Bermudez. I feel like it's done this a couple of times and sort of says, hey, I am really, really good, and then flattens off a bit. You?
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest figure it's posted first up and by quite a way, and over 1,200. So fascinating to see what the placement of this horse is going forward. You know, you'd think going up towards a mile, that looks like it will be its strike zone, but yeah, surprising.
Last prep, off 100 days, this was off 60 days or something. It was first up 400 metres and it started 650 and we backed Hickok and it knocked us off. It was one of the great rides, Ollie, at Sale on a Sunday or something. It was fucking like, very grey. Very, very grey. It kicked off at 400 metres the previous start at Pakenham, previous prep.
Yeah.
Like really, really hard horse to price, but the win's very, very impressive. Not just to the eye, but massively more so to the clock. Anavisto, Pete in race 3. Big boy.
Oh,
big boy numbers.
Absolutely. Full
credit to us for backing Vespertine, who's like never going to run as good as it did on Saturday again, but we didn't get paid. Ran into Anavisto, who I think everyone I think most people think is a pretty good horse. Didn't think it was this good, but Jamie Carr gets the most out of it, I reckon. I think she's the rider for Anavisto. Any thoughts this horse?
Had a bit more condition on than I have seen previously. Not that I've seen it, every start that it's had, but looked really strong. Wasn't too carried away, but absolutely just flogged them. And it's an enormous figure.
Fucking flogged them.
Yeah,
top of the straight. I thought, well, they've gone pretty hard here. I reckon we're home.
Yeah.
And Jackson confirmed the same. I think you did. I think Josh did. Like post race, we all sort of admitted that we like half crowed it mentally.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing coming. It was like nothing was going to come and get Vespertine, so all we have to do is run past Anavisto. Well, we didn't. It's a PB by sort of just under 3 lengths. First up, it ran into Turreth last start. First up, who's a proper horse too. It won second up. It was a very, very impressive preparation last prep. You'd imagine it's in for a bigger one this time. Like it ran third at the end of it last preparation of Flying Mascot, who won a group race the other day. Still a start, economical. When it knocked off economical, pissed in that day. We backed it, but Turreth, it's a very nice horse. I think out of this though. I think it can be followed out of the race. Anything else?
Not so much, but she and Yonce, both 4-year-old mares, both very, very good horses.
Very good horses. I think out of the race, there's one run that's worth just putting into your black book, or especially into your literal black book on your puntingform.com.au database, which you all should have. It's Quantum Mechanic. I think another Price Kent junior horse. It wasn't suited the way the race was run. It was way too far back. It was the third best performance from the 600 to the 400 and the second best from the 4 to the 2 in the race. You look at the wide starter on your punting form stuff, the leader sort of sat second, the second horse sat third, the third horse led, Quantum Mechanic was near last year. It was a big performance, I think, and it's a horse I sort of fall into a fair bit, but beat 6 lengths, but I think a little bit better than that looked. Quantum Mechanic can win next 2 starts.
Yep.
Race 5, P still P. I think this is a short race. Full credit to us for backing Overpass. Anything else?
No. Overall figures not much chop, is it?
Grand final race.
Yeah, just
Sound
did what it needed to
fascinating,
do.
but Overpass is still a cult. But that's about all I took out of that race. Wow.
The tempo of the Blamey,
It was a disgrace.
I wouldn't say it was a disgrace, but I didn't necessarily have Mr. Brightside leading, but I don't think anything else really wanted to lead either. And in
You
the end,
don't think?
17
Obviously.
lengths slow to the 600 is just. I mean, what do you even take out of this race?
That's
Yes,
a class figure, and that's a disgraceful figure.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. I couldn't help myself, but I'm excited about racing at the moment. So I clicked onto the Stewards report just to have a little Bo Peep. Not even a mention.
Nope.
It's almost dangerous how slow they went. It grays me up completely about the strength of the race moving forward.
Yeah.
Jackson said that Zaki looked 10 times better in the yard than it did at its previous start. It's certainly to my eye looked fucking impressive.
It's a monster,
and it was
isn't it?
very scary.
Yeah.
Like sort of because we were heavily on Inspirational Girl.
Brightside was
Lane's
fat.
ride was brilliant. I thought Inspirational Girl. I think it was completely blessed in run, rails in run, as was Zaki. And it's only just got there, but they've absolutely hooned home because they've gone so slow. I don't know what to make of Banker's Choice, who was the fastest last 6, 4, and 2 of the day, but it's a disgraceful tempo, so you should almost sort of cut it out and go to the second one if it comes from a different race. And then, your horse, Mr. Brightside, I thought the same thing. Like one away. Max one away, though. Got close.
Yeah, but compared with the other two rivals, Inspirational Girl and Zaki, as soon as I saw him, I was like, well, he's not winning today. Not against those two.
If that wasn't enough, he went 17 lengths slow to the class, to the 600, just to make sure he couldn't win. I think from a punting point of view, he's the one headed towards, I think he's headed towards an All-Star mile.
Yeah, he is.
So, Mr. Brightside went 13.08, 13.16, the 1200 to the 1000. 13.08, the 10 to the 8. 13.16, 8 to the 6. So, disgracefully slow, but full credit to Willow for maintaining the same slowness. Then, all of a sudden, he just dropped it back to second gear from fifth and went 10.96 from the 600 to the 400.
It's a good little acceleration
That's
there.
very, 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 very bad.
Yeah.
That's panicking, isn't it?
I don't know, did you forget the race was on? Just having a barrier trial.
11.28, 4 to the 2. 11.78, the last furlong. So, not suited badly. I think the one that they'll miss now in the market, and I think the one from the yard can improve, and from a race shape point of view, has to improve.
Yep.
I think Mr. Brightside sets up really nicely.
All right, so we've already mentioned Hitotsu there, coming out of the Guineas. Lightsaber, well, I mean, has had no luck at all so far this preparation.
Oh, either have we. We backed it last start. It fucking scratched at the gates. It would have pissed in off this performance. Absolutely pissed in. Shits me.
Yep.
What a fucking brave run. What a full credit moods. Dart smoking, bucket hat wearing, 4X swilling, big operator that he is. This horse was a big training performance, I thought. Full credit Kevy Corstens, Bonza Perla. It was winning until it stopped. Fuck. Pinstripe. Fuck. It should have pissed in.
You think?
I think it deserved to win the race. It was in the worst part of the track. It was poor. Like, if you look at the race shape, like Bonza Perla's run on and then Pinstripe. The rest of them are sort of there or thereabouts. The winner and the second horse was Coffin, and behind Coffin, Rails and Run.
I don't agree that it's winning, though. I think Lightsaber and Hitotsu both have that serious Caulfield Guineas previous big figure that you can come back to and rely on. They're both SP'd basically the same on that day, whereas Pinstriped is still just finding its way through up against some of these bigger boys.
No, I think that's fair. That's fair. But if you back Pinstripe, you're entitled to spew. Like, it's just not capable of doing what it was asked to do. Like it's increased its sectional by like over half a second as it's got to the 12 to the 1,000, and it's running 1164. Then it's improved to 1152, 1164, 1138. Like, therefore, that's 800 meters of very, very fucking fast work.
Yep.
And like you said, it's not Winx. It didn't SP $5 in a fucking Caulfield Guineas. It didn't SP $5 and be steamed in a derby. So it's entitled to sort of slow down anyway. And it was still hooning versus the race.
Yep.
I think Pinstripe's a legitimately very, very, very good horse. Like a really good horse.
Okay. So
what do you think of Profondo? What do you do with Profondo?
Oh, 3 wide, no cover. Like if you backed it, look for a better setup next start. Yeah, 3 wide, no cover, serious tempo. Look, I know it's been beaten 8.5, but first up, like there's enough genuine queries there to suggest that you have to trust that SP, don't you?
Yeah, I think you do. But I certainly wouldn't back it, but you got to trust it.
Yep.
Malkovich, this has almost turned a really good day into a bit of a shit day when Brooklyn Hustle sort of hooned late. I was just waffling around. I don't remember what I was doing. I got to the yard a bit after you guys said, "Geez, what's 2?" And you were like, "Nah, no."
it's 2. It's Brooklyn Hustle.
So we shouldered arms, and it sprouted wings, as Matt Hill says, didn't it?
Yeah. Look, I was a little bit shitty at this race. I've had something on all banter and went again in run when Willow's taken it to the inside lane because I thought, oh, look, just given the way the circle races are playing, this might be very well the best ground. And Milliver's sort of just sat at its girth basically the entire race, and they only really got run over very late. Only very late. And Matthew Hill, bless his cotton socks, it was a tough race to call, but he really didn't have too much of an idea late there, did he?
No, you'd like...
These are just impossible, these ones. Like the first 8 across the line have been within 1.1 lengths.
Yeah. So do you think that sort of means be very careful of this race moving forward?
It's interesting, isn't it? Usually I stay clear of these bunch finishes, but the very fast tempo counters that to a certain degree, and they've all performed with a pretty solid figure. I reckon there's a few out of this that you could probably roll with going back to a more suitable race.
I think there's some here. So say like Brooklyn Hustle was pretty good last winter in Queensland, for example. Like it looks like it's fucking airborne to me. The way it walked and looked and it was glowing, and then that performance. I think Sort of Mercy is a really nice horse. Just needs to find the right race. D-Lane will ride it every time. Maybe back to Caulfield. It's won a few races at Caulfield. But yeah, the bunch finish scares me. If I get a big price about one of them, though, I won't be afraid to sort of pull the trigger.
Was an Express Pass just sensational first up?
Yeah, hard horse to catch.
That it kept finding as well. Like it looked like it was never getting there, and it's been beaten 0.3 of a length. And those are some fat numbers, especially over the last 2. Real strong figure first up. Yeah, I don't have a great profile on the horse in terms of where its best track and distance is, but I'd say Flemington down the straight once more. I'll be following that.
Oh, I think he's a horse though that, like deep into a career now. Nick Ryan's somehow improving it. Found the keys to the horse. Like it opened up last prep at Flemington, ran third again, over 1100 on 1000 to Mo Deer.
Yeah.
Then it lost its Sandown to Zipping Boy. But by the end of the prep, it was knocking off Bella Nipotina at Moonee Valley, and ran 6 to Quantico in that fat figure race. Remember?
Yep. So
I think you could argue both ways here. This horse might be sort of in for a decent preparation. I expect it's overbet though.
That's fair.
Race 9, Yonce, we spoke about how good it was. It heads to Sydney, we're told, or was favourite to head to Sydney. I thought there's nothing else in this race that sort of stood out. luckily, this horse will go to Sydney, so they won't have to ever race it again this prep, because nothing in this race will ever beat Yonce again.
All right, very good.
And
Week
horse
ahead?
to follow. Horse to follow.
Oh, horse to follow.
From the yard for you.
There were some real impressive ones. I was very taken with It's Me. Geez, that's a nice type.
They would have paid nothing for that too.
Yeah.
So full credit to them.
Hitotsu, I thought, paraded really well. It was very forward, but I thought it had improvement to come. I think it only has to hold that, improve a little bit. Geez, it's a nice animal as well. It's a big difference being over here.
Yeah. I think you can follow Pinstripe. I wouldn't want to see it backed up too quickly, but the All-Star Mile would confuse me as from a betting point of view. Be price pending.
Yep.
I think Mr. Brightside will be the bet there. Price pending. I don't know what the market is. I'm just saying the way that the market reacts to what has happened this week, which is a key lead-up reference. And I really like Quantum Mechanic for the next two starts. You'll get a good price both times. Just bet Quantum Mechanic.
For sure. Good week ahead, though. Hillside Wednesday. You've got Pakenham Kilmore Thursday. Cranny Bendigo Friday. So Bendigo Friday. Super Saturday, Flemington.
That's actually really, really big. Like, there's a lot of betting going to be had. So, like Kilmore Maidens, Pakenham doesn't exist, basically. Basically, Goon. So Thursday night's off. But Cranbourne and Bendigo could be sort of, 16 races of betting there on a Friday. Echuca Maiden Sunday, Flemington, we're back. Do we, and does the punter expect to see you present at Ladbrokes Park, Sandown?
I would be leaning more in favour of the negative than the positive.
It's twilight too, so you'll get home about like 9:30. You catch a train.
It'll be all right because Ascot will still be going at the same time, so it'll be fine. But I'm pretty sure the
if anyone out there is watching and wants to drive pistol to and from the leafy South Yarra sort of area, just catch him somewhere around the tan there, pick him up and drop him off on Wednesday. Get in touch. He won't respond, so just get in touch with me on Twitter. I'll sort that out. I hope you guys have a really, really enjoyable week. We've got, I don't know how much, but some left. A tiny amount left in Wolf Point, which is a 2-year-old ready to go by Spieth that is going to be trained by Michael Costa on the Gold Coast. Will just hopefully floods pending zip across the border there and pinch some bobs. And we've also got a Exceed and Excel filly with maybe 20% left. I'm not sure. That's going to be trained by Ciaron Maher and Dave Eustace. PDS is out. If you want to have a look at it and you want to get involved and secure your spot to race one with us, email bloodstock@themailbag.com.au. Bye for now.